So for all of our panelists, could we have your name, age, city, any involvement with Jaina or YJ?
Okay, so I'll start with me. I'm Piyush Gandhi. I'm 44 years old. Yeah, I'm much older than what you would think. I'm from Chicago, and it's really exciting to meet all of you and then talk about our journey of being a vegan.
Hi, my name is Priyanka, and I'm from Fremont, California. I currently live in Connecticut, and I'm in graduate school, but I study physician assistant, and I write a food blog called Pinky's Palette. Sorry, what? Oh yeah, and back in 2009 to 2010, I was on the YJ executive board as a West Coast regional coordinator and helped put on the convention back then.
Hi everyone, my name is Anjali Doshi. I'm 23 years old. I'm from Chicago, but I'm currently doing graduate school in New York. And I'm currently the Director of Education for YJ. And in the past, I've helped out with Jaina Academic Bowl at Jaina. And I also started an online batra this past year.
Hi everyone, my name is Tushar Mehta. I'm from Toronto, Canada. I'm a physician there. I did my residency in family medicine, but practice mainly emergency medicine now, do a little bit of international health and some other things. I'm interested in vegan diet and health, and environmental issues and the compassionate issues as well. And I do some education around that, and I do some environmental work as well.
Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Gina Shah, and I'm 47. I might be the oldest one on the panel. I turned vegan in college, and I feel like your age group, college and younger, is a really nice age because you're able to take information in and think for yourselves and still not too set in your ways to make changes. I hope you get a lot out of this and take advantage of us fully. So I became vegan for ethical reasons, which we'll all talk about. And as I've gone through my training, I've learned more and more about the health benefits. And so, because there's a bunch of us who are in the health field, please think about your questions about that and use us to your advantage.
All right, so I'll ask a few questions, and if at any point you guys want to get involved, just raise your hand. So all of us are vegetarian, but could you tell us what's wrong with milk?
Well, I'll tell you from my perspective what my journey is, and obviously you might hear different opinions or different views about it. But it was just like the way how cows are treated nowadays. They're kind of treated more like commodity rather than a living being. Usually, when does any animal or any mammal get milk? They get milk only when they give birth to their child, and the milk is supposed to be for their child and not for us. So those were the important factors which kind of really, when I thought about it, and I was like, okay, what am I doing? And if you think about it, we are the only species on this planet Earth that live or that drink any other species' milk. You won't find any other species on this planet that drinks any a different species' milk. So these were the three factors which influenced me to move away from milk and just start my vegan journey.
Okay, so I'm still on this journey, and transitioning. I've practiced a fully Jain diet, but I'm transitioning more towards a vegan diet. And what I've come to learn, thinking more about what is a Jain diet, we believe in nonviolence in all forms of life, and especially today, the way milk is produced, that is not in a Jain way. So that's kind of where my thoughts are coming from, and I'm moving towards that.
So just to sort of continue on the theme of Jainism, in Jainism we have the idea that not only are the deeds you do something that matters, it's also deeds that you encourage other people to do or things that you support other people doing. So even if you personally aren't committing cruelty to an animal, if you are supporting that as a consumer, if you are appreciating that it's been done because you're appreciating something that's been produced with cruelty, that also is sort of said to cause bop or bad karma and to not be a good thing that you're doing. So for me, I I sort of believe in Jainism and trying to live a cruelty-free lifestyle as much as possible. And once I became aware that milk is produced with cruelty, I realized I just didn't want to support that as much, not only as like just me, but also as a consumer who can influence my friends and other people around me too.
Can I ask some questions about you guys, by the way? So, how many people are here like 14, 15, 16, 17 years of age? Put up your hand, okay? If you're like maybe 18 to 21, put up your hand. If you're 22 to 25, put up your hand. If you're above 25? Some of us, okay? So, how many people are in college or high school, still in school? How many people are working? Okay. How many people here have heard the word vegan? Okay, cool. Who has not heard about the word vegan? Nobody? Okay, maybe one. All right, Joker. How about who has thought about being vegan? Thought about it. Who's interested in the idea? Who's like not interested in the idea? Like, no way. No way. You can put up your hand, it's okay. It's like, no way, I would never be vegan. Okay, cool, all right, that's interesting. Who is interested in environmental issues? Okay. Who's not interested in environmental issues? Okay. This is something that doesn't really matter. It's okay to put up your hand, like, maybe I shouldn't get people to close their eyes. What about, who cares about animals? Does anybody care? People do, okay? Who does not care about animals? It's not a big deal. Things happen, things don't happen, not a big deal, okay? So most people have similar values if we're to believe that people are putting up their hands, you know, honestly, not just to impress other people or whatever. Okay, that's cool, you know. There's peer pressure, but it's just interesting to know what people's values are and where they're coming from. So people have thought about being vegan, yeah? Okay. So who would it bother? Does it bother you if to have milk, they're definitely gonna kill the cow, 100%. They're gonna kill that cow. Is that bothersome to you? Is it bothersome? Is it bothersome that they will definitely kill the baby? Because if it's a boy baby, they will kill that baby pretty soon. And if it's a girl baby, they'll probably milk her for a while and then kill her. Is that bothersome? It is. Is it bothersome that there's any blood from the cow in the milk? Is that bothersome? Because there always is there's a few skin cells, but there's always going to be some blood cells that naturally go from any mammal, even if somebody's breastfeeding, a human is breastfeeding their baby, there are some blood cells that go into the baby. They serve a purpose. Sometimes it's because of an infection of the breast. That's many times it is, and also parts of them serve a purpose for the baby's internal. But there are blood cells from the mom that goes into the baby that helps protect the baby, and sometimes because of an infection. Is that bothersome that we're consuming a bit of the blood of the cow every time? Is it? Okay. Yeah, we can call it pus, because they're white blood cells. You can call it pus if you want to, but they're white blood cells mainly. Okay. Okay. So those are things to think about, I think. You know, because they are aligning with our values, probably aligning with your values as well. And you know, and the killing is definite. It's 100%. Now, how about in India? Do they treat cows better in India? No. Who has the largest beef export in the world? Which country? India. There's a reason for that too. We can get into more of that. But anyways, I think people do have a lot of similar values, and I think that's interesting.
Okay, so that's pretty provocative, right? There's a lot that's wrong with milk, is the message here. So for the gory details, apart from what you've already kind of heard from here, right? Maybe in the past, there's this myth that there was the Indian family cow that watched TV with the family and was treated really nicely. And these days, it's not the reality. If it ever was the reality, right? You can argue from a Jain perspective that we should not be torturing or enslaving any being in any way. Now, there is no question that cows are tortured and enslaved everywhere. Whether where we live in California, they talk about, you know, free-range cows eating grass and people somehow make their consciences feel better. At the end of their short and painful lives, they are killed. And so what's wrong for me, and I hope for many of you with milk, is that for the same reasons that we are vegetarian, we should be vegan. And what's wrong is that there is inextricably linked with dairy is killing of cows for meat. And for some Americans with other values, they think that if the killing is, quote, painless, it's okay. It's sort of like as long as you sort of make their lives comfortable, it's okay to kill them at the end. From a Jain perspective, I don't think it's ever okay to take a being's life. And from a Jain perspective, if we are so careful as to avoid one-sensed beings being harmed, as in potatoes, onions, garlic, etc., how much more violence is involved in a five-sensed being like a cow? So that's kind of, for me, like the main reasons of what's wrong with milk. Now we can get into like controversy and nitty-gritty about, from a health perspective, the components of milk that are also wrong to consume. We can get into milk protein, casein, we can get into milk fat, which has to do with heart disease, which many of you may be familiar with older relatives. We can get into milk sugars like lactose and galactose. There's all those things. But the bottom line for me is, from an ethical point of view, from our Jain values point of view, we can't get away from that killing, and that's completely opposed to our ideals of nonviolence.
Does anybody have any questions or comments so far? Any idea, any thought that comes to mind? Somebody must have a thought.
Just one question. Has any one of you guys ever sort of tried to go vegan that wasn't already vegan and had difficulty with it? Interesting. Can I?
Yeah.
Does anyone want to share like something they found hard about it?
I can bring the mic too, so.
Just raise your hand.
I saw some hands. Hands back up. There's no harm in saying it.
So I'm Ashna. I turned vegan, like fully vegan, when I was in 4th grade. And something like that I found really hard was like, as like a child, like going to like birthday parties or like any parties and like seeing like things like cake and like pizza, like that was like definitely like a struggle for me, and like it was hard to like keep myself from like not eating those things, and like going to like Jain parties, especially like they would have cakes with like that were eggless, but like they would have milk in them, but like you would have to keep yourself from eating that, and like those were restrictions that you would have to keep on yourself, especially at a young age. That was a really difficult thing for me. And recently, like I've seen like my change, and like recently I went to an Arangetram, and they had eggless cake that had milk in it, but it was a vegan. And I noticed that like I didn't even crave for it, I didn't even want it, I didn't even think about it, and like I've seen that change over time as like a young child. It was so hard to like, keep myself from eating that, and it was like an internal struggle, but honestly it's worth it because my struggle is nothing compared to the pain that is put on a cow or like a calf or any like in producing milk. And I can't say that my pain is anywhere equal to that. So yeah.
Anybody else have any thoughts or ideas?
I just want to say that was really courageous to share, and how wonderful that as a child, it is hard. These things are hard even for adults, and how wonderful that you, grew through it and overcame it and can share that. So please, just share.
Yeah, and then Ashna, I can tell you from my own experience, like I turned vegan about just 5 years back, so I'm pretty new in vegan. But believe me, most of the friends like who were non-Jains, my non-Jain friends, they are meat eaters. They eat everything and anything that moves, right? So when they came to know that I turned vegan, so now when I go to their parties, they at least honor my presence over there, and in those parties they don't have any meat served in the party. So that was a big change which I was able to influence and bring them. So even though they might be eating it somewhere else or eating at other parties, but the parties where I'm present, they're not having that. So though I don't get a lot of vegan choices, but at least I have avoided that part of having meat and made them to go vegetarian. So that was a big change, and it's just believe in yourself, and the world will change around you.
All right, so the next question I have is more for Priyanka. Kind of just discussing the pros and cons of a Jain diet versus a vegan diet.
Okay, so I grew up eating a Jain diet. My mom never brought, any root vegetables home or anything. So that's just, something that has been ingrained in me through my childhood and upbringing. When I went to college, that's when it was first really tested. You're in the dorm, you're on a meal plan, and you only have certain options. And a lot of the times, even the vegetarian options would contain eggs, because eggs are considered vegetarian for most Americans. However, in the Jain diet, it's not. So that's something that really, got me thinking a little bit more about how am I going to tackle this? If I'm on a meal plan, can I eat something besides salad every single day? So I think it sparked a little bit of creativity and, that necessity to find something and wanting to find it rather than giving in to what is in front of you. Inspired me to start cooking and, experimenting with even simple recipes that I could make in my dorm without a kitchen. And, with that, I really started to study more about why I'm following this Jain diet, not just because that's what I was eating at home, but what is, the background, what is the reason why we don't eat root vegetables and things like that. And the other part of it is, I really am, interested in health and wellness and fitness, and a lot of that has to do with healthy eating or cooking from scratch, so you know what's going into your food rather than buying things from the outside and things that are less processed. And in that process, I would choose options that were more vegan friendly. So instead of buying milk, buying almond milk and using that as not just a substitute, but incorporating it into whatever I was making. So instead of transitioning black and white, it was okay, I'm going to try, dropping this one item and using this instead. And I think that has really helped me in my journey. And a lot of the foods that are not vegan that I might be tempted towards are the unhealthy ones, ice cream or chocolate, things like that. So in a way, it also makes you eat healthier. It helps you eat more non-processed foods with less cholesterol, things like that. So I think that, you can bring the two together. It doesn't have to be, I either follow a Jain diet or a vegan diet, but, you can start blending the two together, because essentially the foundation of both of the principles are nonviolence and, ethical reasons like we've been discussing.
Yeah, just to add a little bit about the, how to bring the two together. I've thought about this a lot. I've asked Sharmarijis what their idea is. Should you be Jain or should you be vegan in your diet? Which one's more important? And their answer is always, you should be both, because it's kind of two things of equal weight. The Jain diet is supposed to be around because if you eat root vegetables, according to Jainism, there are millions of souls in a root rather than just one. And also when you eat the root, you kill the entire plant. But then the vegan diet is there because we don't want to harm a single being, but it's a 5-sensed being, so it feels more pain. So how do you sort of weigh the two? And then the answer that people always come back to is, at the end of the day, you should do both. I personally find it easier to be vegan than Jain, and Priyanka grew up Jain and is transitioning to vegan. So at the practical level, I think it's really what you are able to do in your abilities is what you should try to do.
And can I just say that as a community, when we have events where we serve food, whether it's Young Jains or your local temple, we can follow the example of the folks in London, and Sagar Shah's here. If you want to ask him more, Young Jains in London serves Jain vegan food, right? When we have the ability to control the food that we serve the whole community, make it both. Now, if you're living in the world and you can't or you don't want to cook from scratch, then you make a choice. And generally, in my life, I've found that it's easier these days to find vegan food than to find Jain food if you have to make a choice. Or, ideally, you could get Jain and vegan, but so I prioritize for myself the 5-sensed violence of veganism. But when I cook for myself, I try as much as possible to avoid roots. And as a community, why not make it easier for all of us and just serve Jain vegan food? It doesn't have to be one or the other.
How many people here avoid onions and garlic? It's okay if you do, yeah. How many people do? Yeah? Is it a minority of people? How many people eat onions and garlic and root vegetables? Most people do.
Yeah.
Okay. How many people here believe every single thing that you're taught about Jainism or you're told about Jainism? Every single thing. If you believe, for example, many Jains traditionally believe that the world is flat. Okay? It's written in some book somewhere. Do you believe it? Who believes it just because it's written in a Jain book? Right? Does anybody believe that? Because it does say that the world is flat in some Jain books. Okay, do you believe that? Okay. And some of these questions come down to, I think, what we believe, that there's no religion out there that's perfect. There's no philosophy out there that's perfect. There's philosophies there's something good in everything. We try to find the best things about Jainism, but that doesn't mean we believe in every single little thing that everybody says. And sometimes, when it comes to Jainism or any belief system, there's different people who say different things that sometimes they contradict each other as well. Have you ever heard that? Right? Okay. So I think it's up to us, not that we have to believe everything in Jainism. Some people will believe nothing. They don't believe in it at all. They're just part of the community. But it's up to us to be really strong thinkers and evaluators ourselves. That's what makes Jainism to be scientific. The whole theme of this conference is Jainism and science. But the root of that, the principle of there, is that you have to be self-thinking and not just believe what you're told all the time. And you have to evaluate it against other sources of knowledge that you have as well. So personally, I don't really believe there's anything wrong with root vegetables. In fact, if we eat wheat, they're going to plow that field, they're going to dig up every root of every stalk of wheat, and they will all be killed anyways. Whether I'm eating the root of the wheat or not, they're going to kill the whole plant, and they turn over the field, and every root will be, all these things. I do believe that a tree is more valuable than an onion, because if you're going to look at a 1 cent life and say a 1 cent life is a tree, will kill a tree that might be 1,000 years old versus killing an onion, I think that's illogical. I think trees have a huge life. Maybe there is some consciousness in there, and if there is some wisdom in a tree, it would be perhaps beyond what even humans are most of the time. But we simply kill trees a lot as Jains in our businesses, but we avoid killing onions. And we are freely killing lots and lots of cows, So if we're going to think of our belief system as scientific, it doesn't necessarily mean that everything's based in science, but it means that we're evaluating everything philosophically and rationally and making rational choices, So I think that's a really important thing about any of these things, is just being rational and really thoughtful and scientific as you can about it.
So I would just say that, granted that many of us eat root vegetables and things like that, but I would say if you really try and understand the reasons given in Jainism of why should we not eat root vegetables, then probably you might realize the meaning behind it. And yes, as some of the things which Tushar rightly pointed out, that it's like, what do you do? I mean, when you would eat wheat, that wheat is also grown in a farmland which is being plowed, so obviously some roots are being taken off. Now, Jainism never says that, they say that even if you breathe, there are pap karmas that you're doing, because your breathing itself can kill a lot of stuff. However, it's like, what do you do? Then you're always in a bind, right? I mean, should you eat wheat or should you eat root vegetables? How do you do that? So what we say is that if you can do, now this is a very hypothetical scenario, right? Maybe not practical, but if you grow your own food, right? You can have much more control over how you are growing the food rather than having it grown industrialized way, right? So that way you can avoid a lot of harms happening in there. So, nevertheless, to that question which was asked, there's a very interesting practical situation that happened with me, which I wanted to tell you guys. So I thought of becoming vegan when I was going to India, and I thought that, hey, India, everybody's vegetarian, everybody knows about vegetarians, it might be very easy to be vegan back in India. And believe me, that 1 month that I was over there, that was the toughest month for me of transitioning to becoming a vegan. Now, a lot of my family back in India eat Jain diet, and that's how I had also grown up, eating Jain diet. So they also asked me the question, why become vegan? Like, you're already eating Jain diet, so why become vegan? Then I started thinking that, yeah, there has to be a reason that, why I'm being vegan, and some connection between being vegan and Jain. So a very simple answer I found, because while I was there, there was some kind of an ambil oli going on, and so my aunt was taking part in that. And so I asked her that, why you do ambil? And she says that we are told by the Jain scriptures that there are 6 vigais, and Anjali, you can keep me honest, like whether it's 6 or 8, I don't know, but it's about 6 or 8 vigais, which if possible you should leave or do tyag in your life. And if you are vegan, then 3 of those vigai you're already taken care of, So I told my aunt that, hey, you were telling me that, why being vegan? So I said that, I'm actually not vegan, but I have done tyag of these 3 vigais for my life. So then she started appreciating the fact, and then, okay, she kind of agreed to that. So that's just like a different perspective how Jainism and veganism is connected.
I just wanted to add kind of along those lines. I think you were talking about as a community what we can do at our events, and that may seem like a point that doesn't really apply to you guys because you're in the age group where it's like, okay, you go to the temple and you eat what they give you, right? Or you come to Jaina and you eat what they give you. But actually, sort of your actions and preferences can have more of a ripple effect than you think of. When I first went vegan, that sort of led my brother to become vegan, and at the Dietary, we would sort of be asking for vegan food. We would say, do you have a vegan option? Is there ghee in the pot? Is there this? And the more vegans that sort of became one vegan in the Dietary, the more we would ask for it. Or when I would tell my grandma that, okay, I'm vegan, she would start making vegan food on Diethy's, not just Jain food. And now at our Dietary in Chicago, they pretty much serve vegan options every time we have an event, just because, it maybe started with a couple people, but you ask for something, you tell your sister or your brother, you tell your parents, and you make vegan food today, and bam, like it sort of spreads from there.
We have time for a couple more questions. Do any of you have anything you want to ask? Yeah. Really good? Okay. Could you stand up?
So I just have a question. What are those 3 items that you...
Right. So it is doodh, ghee, and dahi. It's all so they're all milk products, and besides that, the other 3, I don't remember all of them, but I know salt is one of them. Fried food is one of them, so anything that's deep fried you cannot have, even shallow fried, so oil,
Sugar.
yeah, and sugar, yeah. So these are the 6 which I know.
So if you become a plant-based, salt, oil, sugar-free eater, then you're following a vegan-free diet, and you're also promoting your own health, actually.
Absolutely, that's very true.
Question?
Yeah, what's wrong with salt?
So I think so the doctors
From
will
a health,
tell you.
what, do you mean from a Jain perspective or from a health perspective? Okay, so my understanding is it's all about like not being addicted to taste. We are spiritual beings, right? We should not be like feeding our cravings and our addictions. Our religion is about tyag. It's not about rag. It's not about attachment. If you feel like having something, that doesn't mean you indulge in every attachment that you have. It's about learning how to restrain and control for the purpose of spiritual advancement. So everything that people think of that they want to crave, it's about like restraining that. So salt, sugar, oil, they feed these craving centers in our brains. We have to learn how not to be like instinctive animals and just go after that.
Don't you need to survive?
A certain amount of salt, for sure. But this isn't about that certain amount. A certain amount of, of course you need a certain amount of salt to maintain the balance in your body of different minerals and to have your muscles function and your heart function and all of that. Of course, this is not about no salt for life. And by the way, there is some natural salt in foods. So this is about not adding salt and feeding the cravings like salty snacks, like the things we do in Gujarati snack foods, which is what? Salt, oil, and sugar all in one thing. Yeah.
And if this restraint sounds hard, think about it. Probably most of you guys in this audience are vegetarian, right? You're already practicing some form of restraint on your diet compared to the people around you. And if you're like me, I grew up being vegetarian. I didn't think twice about choosing not to eat meat. So it's easier than you think it is.
Yeah.
So like, as especially growing up in America, having peers that are always going to make comments, what is kind of your simple way to just tell them what your restraints are on diet?
Yep, I can probably take that. That's a very good question, especially, and it doesn't matter whether you're in school, you're in college, or you're at your workplace. You know, I go out with my colleagues everywhere. I even go out for lunch and dinner to steakhouses. You know, being vegan and in steakhouse, think about it, right? Completely opposite things. But yeah, a lot of times I get asked that question that, you know, what is this Jainism? You know, and they try to make fun of you. You know, the rude, or you will be killing this rude, you should not even breathe because otherwise you'll kill that, and it happens. But you know, always what I felt is that when you put your stuff across in a logical way, and in a way which they can understand. So for example, to my white friends who don't understand anything about Jainism, you know, I talk to them about the principles of non-violence, right? And I say that, you know, we believe in absolute non-violence. So not only non-violence in our actions, but in every single thing that we do, including our thoughts. So this is like non-violence to an extreme. So then they can make sense. Okay, that makes sense. That, okay, you know, you don't want to promote violence and things like that. But
when I was in college, and since then, I have a lot of my friends were not just meat eaters, they were like carnivores, right? They would pretty much like be carnivores.
Yeah.
And they would make fun of me all the time, right? All the time. Good friends of mine, pretty good friends of mine, they got to be pretty good friends of mine, and I would always take it pretty easy, kind of joke back with them. But they always knew that my reasons for not killing animals were like these ethical reasons and things like this. They always knew that. And I would always joke back and forth with them, and I let them make fun of me, and I think it was good, because it made me able to sort of tolerate like people making fun of it, and it doesn't really, it used to bother me somewhat, and it doesn't really bother me anymore. I kind of think it's funny, and I joke back with people. But they would always sort of, a little bit here and there, whenever I had a chance, I would try to say something about the killing of animals or whatever it is, or put it in a joke back to the person. And they'd be like, you know what, for that broccoli, somebody killed a cow. You know, they would do anything. And there was like, you know, if you know, I have one friend who says, okay, listen, if you don't eat that chicken, I'm gonna kill 2 chickens. What are you gonna do? You know, like, that's only the tip of the iceberg. Okay, that's only the tip of the iceberg. Yeah. But those same friends now, it's very interesting, because I'm also a bit older. Out of all those friends, I have a few of them that are trying to be vegetarian. Some of them have become vegan. Some of them who will try to be vegan part of the time. And whenever I go to visit them in a different city or something like that, they take me to every vegan restaurant. So the guys who made the most fun of me, I'm always surprised as to what happens later on in their life. So it's pretty amazing what happens. At my work, everybody knows that I'm vegan. I don't push it or anything like that, but people know why I'm vegan. I make it known in a gentle way. But then they're always coming to me like, oh, my daughter's trying to be vegan. Oh, my cousin's vegan. Oh, I found a vegan recipe. You know, it just starts happening. You know, so things are really changing and catching on and progressing, I think. And if you have a really good attitude about it, then people understand, and you have to be able to have fun with it too.
And I think it depends on who you are and who's talking to you and how you can relate to them, right? Like, women generally won't do the "I'll kill 2 chickens" thing like guys. We don't generally talk that way. But there might be other more subtle ways, and we can talk about that. One thing that I read recently that I thought was interesting was for a lot of Americans, their dogs are really important to them. And one person, a vegan friend, said in response to why they're vegan, "I see my dog in every animal." And that really made the dog lovers think, like, oh, you know, like for the same reasons that they love their companion animals or pets, that they might consider respecting other animals. And where I live, a lot of people think about veganism in terms of like food allergies. They kind of confuse gluten-free and vegan. So I try to make it not about me as a person trying to be pure, but about like, this is about trying to be kind to animals, try to avoid killing, try to avoid violence. And even at work, like one-on-one, I can have those conversations. In a group, generally people aren't actually that interested. It's kind of superficial. You can keep it a little superficial. But one-on-one, if they're actually interested, you can get into that. Maybe the other women can talk a little bit about their experiences, because it is different, you know, who you are.
I I think I've had this experience a lot lately because everyone in my lab that I'm in right now is very carnivorous, like aggressively, and every time we order food and I'm ordering like the vegan version of whatever. But I think for me, the best way that's worked when I present myself to people is to come across as non-judgmental, as I'm not telling you this because I am judging you and your choices and telling you you are wrong, but this is the way I live my life because these are my ideals, and sometimes people realize that those ideals resonate with them, and I've had a few friends who have gone vegan after meeting me and thinking about it for months or years or whatever, and now they're sort of very, very proactively vegan.
Yeah, I think a lot of good advice has been said. One thing, if it's something in passing and you don't have a lot of time to talk to them about it, I think, just outlining, I follow this diet because my values are rooted in nonviolence, and that goes across all forms of life. And this is why I don't, consume meat or consume dairy, and just keeping it brief but logical, so that it makes sense to them. I think that's a good way to if you have a few seconds and you want to explain it, that's a good way to do it too. But definitely, if you have friends who want to know more, I think if you're able to sit down and explain more and like do your own research so you can talk to people more about it, that can help inspire others as well. I think one example I have is I studied abroad in Argentina when I was in college, and Argentina is definitely a country that has a lot of meat in their their natural cuisine, and I lived with a homestay family, and for that time I requested that I wanted to be with a family that would be willing to cook Jain food for me, and I was paired with somebody who did, and she was this old grandmother who had always eaten a typical Argentinian diet with me, and for those 4 months I was down there, she ate an entirely Jain diet with me. And by the end, she was so inspired and she felt like so much healthier and well that she was like, I'm going to try and keep some of this up for me. And so, just things like that, with your friends, with people you may not know, any form of education or just personal inspiration can help others too.
And I would just add that, you really asked a very good question. So basically the message over here, if you boil down, there are two aspects, right? Be consistent in what you do, because what you portray, really, if you're consistent about your values, people do respect that. And the second thing is, don't be afraid or be ashamed that just because somebody's making fun of the way how you eat or what you eat, that you are inferior in any other aspect.
Got it.
Another question, because we're talking about Jaina, right? So I'm just wondering. So we say no to lasan and ganda and all that. Well, what about herder? Because isn't turmeric root vegetable? So why do you put that in our food and no onions, no lasan and all that?
So that's a very interesting topic, because I think so, Gina, you are in one of that WhatsApp group which we have on the vegan stuff. So believe me, this question does get asked a lot of time, because why harder? Why ginger? Because if a lot of you know about soont, that's made out of ginger. So those are the questions which are asked. And I'm not a very truly Jain person as such. I don't follow Jain principle to the extreme. So what I have done is that, to me, what I feel the logical answer is, or the reason is that both harder, which is turmeric, and ginger, they both have medicinal value. So that may be the reason why it is allowed, because of the medicinal value that they give compared to other stuff like onion, garlic, or potatoes.
I was just going to add to that. So the other thing is that those, like turmeric, you're not really eating that for taste. And you're eating in such small quantities. So in addition to being for medicinal purposes, you're not feeding that that desire and that, like we were talking about earlier, the desire for a certain type of craving. So in that way, it aligns with those values as well as being for a health purpose.
So I would say that this panel is more specialized to answer questions about veganism, and those are good questions about root vegetables, and ask some of the other Jain scholars around.
Right.
I've heard the same thing about medicinal properties, but you have we have some other folks in the convention that probably can give you more about that. But ask us more about veganism, because that's kind of what we all have in common that we could help you with.
All right, so it's 2:20, so I think we're going to try to wrap it up. I think one question is, could you share more information about where people can reach out online or at Jaina and find out more information?
Well, I will say that we have a whole lineup of talks at this convention. So I know it's been confusing trying to follow all the changes in rooms, etc. But we do have Tushar's keynote today for this track. So please come and hear more. You want to say a few words about that?
Sure. I'm going to be speaking about Jainism and the philosophy of nonviolence today. So we've all heard of the word ahimsa, but we're going to talk about like what it really means and sort of explore the idea in a bit of a different way today. Okay, and like that. There's some other talks that are really good. Mercy for Animals is an animal rights group that's here. And they're going to have a few talks tomorrow and the next day. So look for some of their talks and some of the other great speakers here.
Yeah, so I can tell you more about that. So we have 3 talks in a row, both tomorrow and Monday at the Edison, that talk about various aspects of veganism. So Sagar from the Jain Vegans UK will give a talk. And you have on your chairs flyers from the Jain Vegans UK talking about going vegan for Barishan. I'll be speaking about health aspects, and Vandana Bala from Mercy for Animals will be speaking. So
Guys, please quiet down.
Okay, so if you want to know more, you can talk to me.
Was just wondering, what are some of people's barriers for going vegan? What are the things that make it seem hard to go vegan? What are some things out there that the audience feels? Yeah, there's a hand over there. Ice cream, okay. Yeah, what else is hard? Pizza. What's that? Pizza? Pizza? Chocolate? Cheese? What? College? Speaking of college? Okay, all right. Society. The man, right? Donald Trump? He makes it hard to go vegan? Okay. All right, so I think we're kind of running out of time here. I want to put in a couple of small points. One point that I want to say, okay, there's a really cool video online. It's actually fun to watch. It's only 5 minutes. It's called Dairy is Scary, okay? Can you remember that? Dairy is Scary. It's a Canadian video, so I might be a bit biased, right? But, Trudeau, whatever, but seriously. So Dairy is Scary. Check it out. It's 5 minutes. It's actually pretty snappy and pretty cool. All right, that's one thing. Okay, and the other thing is this. Shh. Okay. So one thing is this. People may not be thinking of going vegan. Some people may think that they'll never go vegan. That's cool. All right. But what I would recommend to people, experiment a little bit. Think about like maybe trying 1 day a week or 1 meal a week to make something or do something that's creative and vegan. Or go to a vegan restaurant, or make some Indian food that's vegan, or try to find the best vegan ice cream, or try to find the best vegan pizza in some different city, or making one yourself, or something like that with some of the vegan cheeses out there. Try just to experiment. Even if you're not thinking of going vegan, think about experimenting with some of these things. And I think that's a really good thing to do, because it gets you thinking about alternatives and stuff like that, and you'll get ideas from people. So those 2 things.
And come by, there's several booths, and you can talk to people more about ice cream, cheese, other products, and more about veganism. There's booths in the expo hall from Vegetarian Resource Group, and then we have an ahimsa eco-vegan committee, and we have lots of displays and things like that. We wish we could have passed out samples to show you how really tasty coconut ice cream, almond ice cream, cashew ice cream, all the newest cheese. So please do experiment.
Just one quick thing to add, guys, this is literally what the internet was invented for, is finding vegan substitutes in vegan restaurants. So YJA website, yja.org, has links to vegan recipes that are posted online. We have a vegan cooking webinar, which is our Jain vegan cooking webinar from Priyanka. There's also on YJA forums a discussion thread on best vegan restaurants in different cities. And literally all you have to do is Google like vegan restaurants on Google Maps or something. Things will come up. And if you just try it, you might like it. If you don't, try something else another time.
Okay, and just one more thing I wanted to share. So if you go to pinkiespalette.com, you can see the recipes I've posted on there, and I'm starting to do some more YouTube videos that show you quick, meal preps that are vegan and Jain friendly. So you can watch out for those. I have done the live webinar with YJ a few weeks ago, so you can find that video on YouTube and on the Young Jains of America website as well. That could help you maybe get started and inspired a little bit to start cooking.
And most of the stuff they already said where you can find. And yes, as Anjali rightly pointed out, that internet was invented for you to search. So make use of that rather than they making use of it. However, if you go to Whole Foods, you'll find a whole slew of vegan options for everything. Ice creams, cheeses, whatever you think of, they have an option over there. Also, you might be surprised whenever you go to any restaurant, you don't know whether what you're eating is vegetarian or not. Just ask them that, I am vegan, do you have anything vegan? And there's two things, the benefit about that is that first thing is that you get a very fresh dish made from scratch because that's not what they make. And the second thing is you don't have to worry about it being vegetarian because people do understand what veganism means, but they are a little bit confused about vegetarianism. So just go for it, ask it, and try it out.
Oh, sorry, one last thing. For those of you guys who are in college or starting college, you can just go to whoever your campus's nutrition person is, or there will be someone in charge of dining, or you might even have a vegan group on campus, and you can just ask them, what's vegan at the dining hall? If there is nothing, can I talk to you about having a few vegan options? They have to work with you. You're a student, you're paying to be there. So if you're just about to start college and you're worried about it, be ready to just ask a few things and they will work with you more than you even expect.
And that's at any restaurant. You can always ask that. And that makes the restaurant think that, oh, I want to try and include a few things so I can get more customers. Things like that.
Yeah.
All right, everyone, let's please thank our panelists.